Hi friends, it's Ashley and welcome back to the channel and to the start of a new reading vlog. So in today's video, we're going to be reading a book that I am super excited for, and that is Stay for a Spell by Amy Coombe. So this is a cozy fantasy that just came out this past April, and I cannot wait to get into this. This one is about a princess who gets trapped inside of a bookshop because of a spell, and that just sounds like so cozy to me, and I'm in the mood for a cozy fantasy, especially since I just finished a book that was really good, but also kind of devastating. So I'm ready for all the cozy vibes. So without further ado, I'm going to hop into this, and I'll be back after I read some with my first thoughts. So I'm only on page 6, but it already feels so cozy, and our princess is about to go into the bookstore. And I just want to read this little passage right here. So it says, "Books promise you that your life can change in an instant. And bookstores offer refuge, a home away from home. No matter how far you travel, you can always find a little piece of home inside a bookstore." I just love that passage so much. It just feels so cozy. Hi, so it's now Wednesday, and I've made it to chapter 27, page 185. And so far I'm enjoying this. I'm having a good time. I'm enjoying the cozy fancy elements of it. It has small town vibes, magical creature, companions, and a bookshop setting. And those are all things that I love in my cozy fantasies. But even though this is like a cozy fantasy, it becomes like apparent very early on in the book that it's also kind of like on the parody side of cozy fantasies. This is very much subverting fairy tale expectations and the tropes that come with them. And when I realized that, that did make me a little nervous because parodies for me can be hit or miss. But so far I'm happy to say that this one is a hit with me. And so the first fairy tale trope that this book flips on its head is the idea of a princess and everyone wanting to be a princess and how a princess's life is glamorous. And we see this when we are introduced to our main female character, Tandadel, or Tandi as she's known to her friends. And the first thing she talks about is how she doesn't really like being a princess, and she tells us like all about the unglamorous sides of being a princess. And she is very much a book lover, and so she rather just spend her days reading and not having to do her royal duties. But of course she can't do that. And so at the beginning of the book, she is going to a town to do her said royal duties, but on her way she sees a bookstore, and she ends up going to this bookstore, and some things end up happening, and she becomes cursed. And so now she can't leave this bookstore until her true heart's desire is unlocked. And so now her parents have to be told about her curse, and she's like, oh no. They're going to learn about the curse, and their brain is automatically going to go to true love's kiss from a prince. Because the number one way to break a spell that a princess is under is through true love's kiss from a prince. And so she knows it's only a matter of time before her parents start sending princes to the bookshop. But she also believes that that is not going to be the way to break the spell. And so she's hoping that her friend and attendant will end up finding a sorcerer who can actually break the spell. But in the meantime, she ends up having to deal with princes coming to the bookstore. And the princes, so far we've met 3 of them. And like the book like de-romanticizes like the princess life, also de-romanticizes like the image of a prince as being gallant and charming. And instead, these princes, all the ones we met so far, are very eccentric and quirky and a little bit unlikable. And so just like meeting them and seeing like their personalities and their dynamic with Tandy has just been so fun so far, and I can't wait to meet the others. And speaking of Tandy, I really like her as a character so far. And while she is definitely a little naive about certain things because she's been a little sheltered as a princess, she's also very grounded, and she is very smart too and uses her wits. And then another character we have been introduced so far is the character who is the actual love interest of this book, and he is a pirate. And I love how like when Tandy first meets him that she doesn't realize right away that he's a pirate, even though like his description is in the book is like the most stereotypical pirate description ever. And her companion in the bookshop even like points this out and it's like, really, you don't see this, that he's a pirate? And her companion, whose name is Sasha, and she's like a teenager who's been helping out at the bookstore, says on page 78, like, I'm not one for judging based on what people wear, but if you were to make any assumptions about a man who says he's a sailor, has long hair, a lot of charisma, a flirtatious nature, a billowy shirt that's open way too far down his chest, and super, super tight pants, what would you assume? And so, like, it's really obvious to anyone else that he's a pirate, but because Tandy has been a little bit sheltered as a princess, she doesn't realize it. And I just thought that scene was really funny. And Tandy, she is definitely attracted to the love interest because she says that he's the like most beautiful man she's ever seen, but also his actions and the way he acts annoys her a lot. And it's also clear that he is like deliberately pressing her buttons, and so their dynamic so far has been a lot of fun. And then speaking of characters, I also have to talk about this little cat on the cover, which since I seen it on here, I'd had so many questions because it has tentacles. We do get introduced to it in the beginning of the book, and it lives in the bookshop, and it's what's known as a elusive cat. And so like it has the power to cast illusions, so you never really know if what you're looking at is the actual cat or the cat is somewhere else. And I just thought that was like cool. And so those are all my thoughts at the moment. Overall, I'm just having a really good time with this book so far, and I'm excited to see where the story goes and to learn more about the other princes, and also to learn more about our love interests and see the relationship between him and Tandy develop. Hi, so I wanted to do one more final update before I finish Stay for a Spell. So I'm on chapter 43, page 303, so I have a little less than 100 pages left. And this has been like the perfect way to start off my Saturday morning, because right now in the story, it's been giving all the cozy and warm-hearted vibes. And the found family vibes of this town have just been so strong and heartwarming. Also, the romance has been blossoming a little bit in these last couple of chapters that I read. So for most of the book, the romance between Tandy and the pirate has been very slow burn. There's been yearning between the two of them, which I've loved. I've loved like all the little interactions that the two have had between them. A lot of those moments are quiet moments that seem small, but they've been building up over the course of the book. Now we're at the point where it seems like their romance is about to blossom. In the chapters that I read this morning, the interactions between the two of them just made me so giddy and gave me butterflies, and I was loving every bit of it. And the only reason I put this book down this morning was so I could shower and then come give you guys an update before I finish this. So I'm gonna go finish this now, and after I'm done, I'll come back with my final thoughts. The romance is making me so happy. I'm gonna read this little interaction between Tandy and love interest. I don't think there's any spoilers in here. It's just something they say to each other, but it shows like just how much he's been like paying attention to her over the course of the book, and it made me so happy. And so she's like just trying to decide like what dress to wear, and he tells her to wear whatever one makes her happiest, and she still doesn't know. So he says, the gray dress, he says, you like it and it's pretty. And then she says, how do you know I like it? And he says, you always twirl when you wear it. That's just like such a sweet moment between the two of them. So I finished and I loved this. The last 100 pages of this were amazing. They were just so emotionally moving and they made me feel so much. And I think the reason why the last bit of the story felt so emotionally impactful was because it was a slow burn. And the book very much takes its time building up all the elements of it. So the cozy vibes, the small town vibes, the found family, the romance, and the characters. For example, there are cozy vibes in this book from like the very beginning, but in the beginning they feel very surface level, but they get stronger as the book goes on. One example is the bookshop. Personally, whenever I think of bookshops, I automatically assign like a cozy feeling to them. And so just the fact that in the beginning of this book, Tandy gets stuck in a bookshop, I just think of that as being cozy. But in reality, the bookshop is actually kind of dilapidated and there just are books everywhere and it's a little bit run down and it just needs some help. And so over the course of the book, Tandy works to reorganize it, and so by the end of the book, it's very much a sanctuary with the ultimate cozy vibe. Hello, editing Ashley popping in here for a moment. So for whatever reason, for this last bit of the video, I just started calling Tandy Tansy and never caught myself. So whenever I say Tansy, I'm talking about Tandy. Transforming the bookstore into this sanctuary is not an easy job, and Tansy definitely could not have done it without help from the townsfolk. So over the course of the novel, she is building relationships with the townsfolk, which very much also contributes to the cozy vibes and the found family and the small town vibes. One of my favorite side characters plays an essential role in helping transform the bookshop, and that is Sasha. And she is a moody goth teenager. She's also a dragon person. I ended up loving her character so much, and more than I initially thought I would, because in the beginning she does kind of come off as like a stereotypical teenager. She's moody, she's gloomy, she's a goth. But as the story goes on, you learn that there's much more to her character and that she has layers. And ultimately, the relationship that she forms with Tansy is just so heartwarming and precious. And playing upon stereotypes is something that this book does really well. I mentioned this earlier, but it also does it with the princes, where it turns like the stereotype of a prince on its head. And so the princes that come to try to break Tansy's curse are nothing like you think a prince would be. And at first, some of them are kind of unlikable, but as time went on, they really grew on me and I started to find many of them endearing. Similar to Sasha and the princes, the love interest, the pirate, also at first comes off as stereotypical. He looks like a stereotypical pirate. And so at first, I wasn't sure like how much I was going to love the romance, but I end up really loving the romance. It actually is probably one of my favorite things about this book. The book very much took its time in building the romance between Pansy and the pirate. It was very much a slow burn, but that totally paid off in like the last 100 pages of this book. The relationship really blossomed. It made me feel all the feels and also put like a giant smile on my face. There was a little bit of spice towards the end, but overall the relationship was just beautiful and really sweet. I also like how even by the end of the book, it still very much feels like the relationship is just beginning, because it is. I really like how the book does not rush their relationship and how it just very much takes its time, and that very well fits like the pace of this book. In addition to this book being a cozy, warm-hearted fantasy, it is also a beautifully written coming-of-age story. Because as a result of the spell and being stuck in this bookshop, Tansy ultimately has to decide what she wants to do with the rest of her life. And so that inner conflict also really contributed to the book being as emotionally moving as it was in the last 100 pages as well. And I think that India Holton on the back of the book with her little blurb best sums up how I felt about the book. So she says, like hot chocolate for the heart, warm, sweet, and a truly lovely treat. If you're in the mood to be charmed, entertained, and joyously amused, then this is a perfect book for you. And I 100% agree with that. And so I'm giving this 5 stars and would definitely recommend it. Let me know down below if you read this, what you thought of it. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.